Hello again, everybody. I'm Henry T, and welcome to our show that's booming, rising up every day. Man, viewers everywhere, all over the state, all over the country, even in Italy. I got a report that we had viewers in Italy calling me on my cell phone. Man, that feels so good. And making a comeback is interesting. You wonder out of sight, out of mind. The people are so nice and they're helping me, inspiring me to come back and go as far as I can in my comeback. Well, I'll tell you what, you've motivated me to do exactly that. I'm gonna I'm gonna try to go to the mountaintop this time. You know, when you reach a certain time in your career and then you have to go on the shelf for a while because, man, people need you. And my mom needed me. So now I'm inspired to really unleash whatever talents I possess and whatever potential I have left to go get it all. God gives us all potential, and you don't want to throw any of it away, waste any of it. You want to use it all. Well, I made him a promise because he gave me these attributes to these gifts. Now it's between him and me and a lot of you, because you inspire me, that he's the number one inspiration leader we'll ever know. He says, Henry T, you've got the gifts, go as far as you can. But you got to get friends like Fred Hultberg along because he's a great inspiration to me every day. Or, you can count your friends on one hand. He's all over that hand. He might be all five some days because he's generous, he's conscientious, he's got these sports interests that equal mine, and he's the number one Lobo fan in history. He's got tickets to every game that was ever played, I bet. I've seen him around, but I wouldn't doubt it. He's been to everything. He goes to all of them. He's the number one fan. Go to the Lobo ticket office. Who's the number one sports fan in Lobo history? All of them. Fred Hultberg. And that's no exaggeration. And Big Fred is on right now. You think I'm kidding? I mean, he goes to the marble matches. Do they have marbles at UNM? Well, if they do, he's there. But I mean it. Tennis and softball and all of the Olympic sports, Fred's all over them. Football, no doubt, front and center. Basketball, best seat in the house. That's Fred Hultberg. Women, men, whatever, he's there. And that's why so many people wave to him and know him and love him. Nice guy. Oh, man, he leads the league in being the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He's with us right now. Fred, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good, Henry. Hey, I don't have the best seats anymore, but I have pretty good seats. Let's just say that, okay?
Oh, man. You're first in line when they sell tickets. I
I
wouldn't
know.
doubt it if your seats are extra good.
I go to a lot of stuff. I really do. I love those Lobos and I love sports, so I'm pretty darn lucky, Henry.
What drives you to be the sports fan that you are?
It's really kind of confusing, Henry, because my mom and dad never they I was from a working family. My mom worked at Sears. My dad was out of town all the time, and it's kind of ironic that they never could go to my games. So why did I get involved in sports? And I think it's because back in those days, all my neighbors, we played football and baseball and stuff in the streets, or else we'd go to I forgot Ridgecrest Park, and I think that's what it was. And then I was so close to Haida, and I could go down and watch the football team practice on the field. I still remember watching Tommy McDonald, and Anthony Gray and Crandall and guys like that. So I don't know. I just love sports. I don't know what I'd do without sports, and I'm really lucky that
How long have you been a Lobo men's basketball fan?
Oh gosh, since remember, I think I told you last time I was on, since I coached for the Lobo football team.
I'm talking basketball.
Basketball? Probably. Well, I mean, I used to go to Carlisle Gym and watch a basketball game. So
all right, you're going to help me with an interview. You're on the line right now. You're going to help me with an interview right now, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Remember the years 1962, 63, 64. 63, 64, Lobo men's basketball, Johnson Gym. What do you recall about that team? Bob Keene came to town. Wow. He brought us what we know now is the beginning of our current experience with modern day basketball, Division I basketball. What do you remember about 63, 64?
Well, it was just that we got, I guess, really, I think your guest's coming up. I think I'm going to say it, Ira Harge. He was the guy that got basketball going at UNM. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't know what we would have done. But here's this guy from Iowa that none of us in Albuquerque knew who he was. And he turns out to be this unbelievable player. And then I still, you didn't tell me I was going to do this, so I got to.
Yeah, I'm just, spontaneous.
Yeah.
They're already making an A. Yeah. Well, you remember that great team, Johnson Gym.
Oh, yeah.
And they went to the NIT.
And there, Mike Lucero played on that team too, which is really cool because here's a guy from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And, oh, no, it was a fun team. It was a really fun team. And I'll never forget those days. I remember when we would line up after the NIT playing that game. I remember lining up all the way down. Gosh, I'm trying to think of what my mind's going blank now. The what's the street that's from the airport?
Well, that's University Boulevard, right?
Well, not University.
And it's Yale.
Yeah, Yale. I remember lining cars all the way down the street. I mean, there was thousands of people there cheering on the Lobos, and we lost that game in the finals, but the NIT back then was much bigger.
Bradley. They beat Drake. They beat NYU. Played Bradley in the finals.
Exactly.
It was a dramatic game.
It was.
No, it was. Stay there because I'm going to give you a great big surprise. We're going to bring on maybe the biggest, most popular name in Lobo basketball history, the first real star in our history. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the great Ira Harge. Ira, good morning. Henry T. and your buddy Fred Hultberg are with you right now. How are you, Ira?
Great. I'm in good shape.
How's it going, Ira?
I can't hear Ira, but I know he's there. Ira, you're in the bottom right corner of the camera. Go to the center a little bit. And there you go. He's right there. There's good-looking Ira Harge. How do you stay so young, Ira?
I wish. I got a big birthday coming up in a month. So, but I'm in. Just live. Take what nature gave me, I guess.
It's good to have you with us today. Thank you.
Well, it's good to be around him.
Yeah. You know, I was a little kid, and I used to sneak into Johnson Gym just to see you play. Me and my neighborhood kids would ride our bicycles to Johnson Gym. Man, when you're out there playing Utah and Arizona State and jumping Joe Caldwell and whoever, and you had Claude Williams and Skip Krusich and Boo Ellis. Oh man, what a team. When you go, I'm going to go even further back. That's a little preface too far. How did Bob King find Ira Harge?
Well, it was very simple. I was planning on going to the University of Iowa, and Bob King was the assistant. And he got the job here in April or May of '62. And he passed through Burlington. I'm sure it was intentional, not accidental. And he asked me, he said, Ira, if by some reason or another you don't go to the University of Iowa, will you come and take a look at New Mexico? And they had myself and Connie Hawkins and a couple other guys.
Wow.
And for some reason, Connie Hawkins went through that problem that he had there with NCAA, and they called me and told me that if that they would not admit me to the University of Iowa. And so Bob King said, well, Ira, come down to New Mexico and take a look. I'm not ever knowing or reading about New Mexico, as I'll say, as I always said, the only thing I knew about New Mexico was the Cisco Kid, the movies that they were on television there. And so I came down. I wasn't prepared for the dust storms that they had in June of that year, '62, but I stayed, and that's what got me here.
Wow. When you saw New Mexico for the first time, Ira, what were your thoughts?
I thought, my thought was, this is not green like Detroit or I'm from Detroit originally, and they were all green. You know, we never had to water our yards or anything like that. And here, you had to pour the water on. And I remember when we'd have a rainstorm and they would flood the streets here, and then they put in the sewers and made it a lot better, the sewer system. Silver, I think, was the street that one that ran into the fairgrounds. I can't recall the name right now.
You had offers everywhere.
I'm
You decided to come to play ball for the University of New Mexico Lobos, and we didn't have much of a reputation for success. What really sold you on coming here?
Well, I came down, and I'm not saying that this is Bob King's fault, but I was going to go from here to California, go to the Pacific University. I was going to go there and go and look in California. I had some friends there who asked me to come, and I said, okay. But I didn't realize that once you got here and you took a class, you signed up, you were enrolled, and that would have depleted my eligibility. So I just stayed. Not that Bob did anything wrong, just that he was looking out for himself in the university. And that's how I really got here.
Well, you played, first of all, at Johnson Gym, and it's a pretty nice place, but only seats about 5,000 people on a great night, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But once you started being Ira Harge, and once you and Skip Krusich and Claude Williams and Mike Lucero and Bob Czar and all those great players started playing, man, the Lobos were finally winning at Division I college basketball. Then the fans started coming. And before long, Johnson Gym was packed. Do you remember the development of your popularity as a team?
Yes, I do. But that all goes to Bob King's coaching ability. He had players, and some of the guys were great players, and some were marginal. But he molded us into a team, and we went on from there. It was him, and we'd get up, and sometimes we'd play at practice at 6 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes at 6 o'clock during the evening. And we went from there. But it was mainly Bob King. It wasn't Ira Harge. It was Bob King and the other guys, Michael Stero, Claude Williams, Skip
Krusich.
Yeah, and then the next year was Boo Ellis, Jim Patterson, one of the guys, and we went on from there.
Now I'm going to bring in my buddy, and he's going to remember more than me because Fred is a genius when it comes to, and he's a media history major, if you will, in the world of sports. Fred Hultberg knows more about you than I do and everybody else because he bought the first ticket to your games. Fred, come on into the conversation and meet your buddy, Ira Harge.
Hey, Ira, how's it going, guy?
Very good, Fred. How are you?
Good.
You Fred, called Fred or Frederick?
You know, my mom's the only one that called me Frederick when I did something wrong, so I'm always called Fred.
Well, I understand that. My mother called me Ira Lee when I did something wrong.
You know, Ira, I don't know if you remember this at all, but do you remember when Boo Ellis got hurt? He hurt his. We were playing. I was a PE major and a business major, and we were outside playing soccer. And I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but they actually caught an ambulance, and I think that Boo only missed a game or so, but do you ever remember something like that happening where he got hit in the shins? I kicked him in the shins and they had to call an ambulance?
I think that was Mel Daniels. That was after I had left. Mel.
Oh, okay. Okay. You know, that might have been then, yeah. Because I thought,
they put in that glass door on the southeast side of the gym. He was going out and he was angry and he just punched the door. He missed the frame and hit the glass, and his arm went through and he got cut up, and they called him, got him over to press or Loveless, and they sold him up and he missed the game. So, but that was Mel Daniels. That was after I had left.
okay, yeah, because I thought, oh, I'm going to be in trouble now when I kicked him in the shins, and they took him away on an ambulance, and I know Toe came over there, and I'll never forget that. But
Fred, what do you remember about Ira as a player?
oh boy, I'll tell you what a great player. You know, we're not used to seeing. I couldn't even think of one person, and when I was younger, growing up, of anybody that was anything like Ira Harge. We've never seen anybody like him. I mean, the rebounding and the shooting and the percentage, if you look at his percentages and stuff of everything he did, it was so wonderful. And I mean, we finally had somebody in the middle. We've never had anybody like that. And we'll never forget Ira Harge. I mean, he's the guy that started, we say King started basketball, but Ira started basketball really in New Mexico. It's just incredible what one man could do, and he could do everything. There wasn't anything that he was bad at. He was just amazing how immediately he started scoring 18, 20 points a game, getting 12 to 14 rebounds a game. Just everything he did was wonderful.
Well, Ira, they say that you built the pit and Mel Daniels filled it. Is that accurate?
That's what they say. I don't know. But you were asking, the last question you asked me about how did it get started. I remember Johnson Gym, the first game we played was like 1,500 to 1,800 people, and it grew mushroomed from there. But the guys in Detroit, the older guys in Detroit are responsible for me. As I told my kids, when I first started going down to work out with these old guys, they were old, they were in their 20s, and I was in my teens. And they would, I had to sit on the side of the gym until somebody got tired and they said, hey, big fella, you come on over. and I would play. And then this was the first year. This was 1957. Then 58, 59, I'd walk in the gym and they say, he's on our team. We got him. That was referring to me. And that's how I got started. And that's how it went from there on. Even coming here, you know, when I first got here, the guys didn't realize what I could do. So, you know, they would pick the friends that they knew to play. This was in the summer of, the fall of 62. We'd have our little workouts. And then I guess I blossomed, or they realized that I could do things. And that's how they got started. But I give most of my credit to those guys in Detroit for my development, and Bob King for helping me become the player I became.
Well, I remember the league had a guy named Chambers from Utah, Flynn Robinson from Wyoming. Do you remember those guys?
Yes, I remember very well. They became good friends.
The league was pretty tough then.
Pardon me?
The league, the WAC, or the Skyline Conference, was very tough in your day.
Well, I was in the WAC. I was the first year of the WAC, and I never played in the Skyline. But those, Billy King of the Hill McGill was there, and Arizona State with Joe Caldwell and Becker. I can't think of his first name. And those guys, and then down in Arizona and BYU. I'm getting a little help here.
How soon after you got here did Johnson Gym start filling up?
Well, I started to say in 62, and it was in October, November, we had our first game, and it was like 1,800 or 2,800. And then the next game, it was like, it had doubled, and it went on and on. Each game was more, there were more people. Finally got to the point when I left, when I was graduating, that you had to, they were lining up, the people would come in and sneak in the gym early. That's before they had all the security that they have now. There was a little kid that lived right across the street from Coronado Dormitories, where I was living. Carlos, I can't remember his last name, but he used to come to my room, and if we had to be 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, he would say, Ira, let me carry your bag. And at first, you know, I'm a guy from Detroit, not knowing all these things. And so I said, sure. So we'd walk over, and Carl looked at and tell the guys, he said, I'm one with him. This is my cousin. This, not Carlos Salazar, but it was something like that. And this is how he got in. And he would come in, then I guess the word got out, and his friends would come in and they'd get guys' bags and take them in. And that's how they got in the games. Because after a while, you know, you had to buy season tickets. I remember Bob King talking about ticket sales, and that was not a question initially. It's just that after that first year, and I think we won we were 17 and 12, 17 and 8. Then the next year we were 23 or 25 and 5. And we went to, that was 63, 64. That's the year we went to the NIT.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, it's still an image that I carry. And me and all my buddies used to sit way at the top and hide in the corner. And then when the game started, we'd kind of move around. I got in there to sit.
Well, while you got this pause, did you have to sneak in the game, or were you a paid customer? Hello.
I don't know what happened to Henry.
Well, I'll talk to you for a moment. She says Henry's muted.
Oh, he is muted? Henry's muted?
There he's back again. He's still muted.
Henry, you're muted. He doesn't know it, huh?
Yeah, I
No,
guess
he
now.
doesn't know. He's muted.
He's
Well, you were talking about some of the things, if you remember,
There.
I think he's
they're trying to get in.
finding it. He's looking for it. Is he working or not? You on, Henry? No, he's still muted. Darn.
He's trying. There.
Is that it? Can you hear us, Henry?
I see Ira, I see
go.
you.
There we go. You were
You
muted.
see each other.
I'm sorry?
Fred, ask Ira a question.
Well, yeah, I still remember like Caldwell and Billy Hill McGill and all those guys too. And I remember toward the end of the year, I know Henry is saying 5,000, but I know it was well over 6,000 people that we had toward the end of the season. You know, the first and second years, and we were hitting 6,000 people all the time, and it was amazing that here this little gym we thought we built when we built Johnson Gym that was going to be too big because we used to average maybe 500 to 700 people a game, and Ira it was probably amazing how when you started out with 1,500 and the crowds got bigger and bigger, you guys probably couldn't believe it, could you?
Well, yeah. But I thought Johnson Gym held 8,500. Am I incorrect?
No, it was about 6,300, I think is what it was.
Anyway, I can remember one of the first games that we had a full house, and I think that was Arizona State because they were the top team. And I think that year we tied for the championship. This was 63, 64, but this was in the end of the 62, 63 season. We were getting close to capacity. And I remember Bob King and not Dozadelli, but the AD were talking. I happened to be there, and they were talking about filling it up, and they were going to have to get security, and all of this happened. And then the summer of 63, they were talking about season ticket sales, and that was something new for them. Gosh, help me out with the
Ira, let's go all the way back. Who
Pardon?
inspired you to be the good man that you are, being a good young man then, and mom and dad, whoever it was, were the first motivational people in your life?
Well, the first one was my mother and father, and mainly my mother, because she was the most vocal person in our life, and she wasn't really inspired about me playing basketball because it took me away from home, and I had a couple of part-time jobs, and I couldn't do that and play basketball. So she would get angry with me and tell me, you need to go do some work. You know, if I needed clothes. I remember once we had it was getting cold in Detroit, and I needed shoes. And she said, well, you better figure out a way to make some money so you can buy yourself some shoes. And so I did. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I remember I had to go and find money. Another thing, the year in '56, I discovered that I need glasses. And my mother said, I don't have money. I don't have money for your glasses. She said, you better figure out a way to get them. And so I learned to play cards, to hustle. As they would say in Detroit, you learn to hustle. You make money, you cash in pop bottles, now it's cans, and you take them and you trade them in. And my glasses cost $8. So I managed to get, we got 2 cents a bottle for our deposit. And that amount of money mounted up after a period of time. And I got $8 to get a pair of glasses. And then I had to buy a little insurance because every time I turn around, somebody whack me and break my glasses. That's who motivated me. My mother and father would tell me, you have to do it yourself. You can't wait on anybody. And then I came to university, and the first thing I did, I met Dr. Kaufman. I think it was B.A. Kaufman, and he was over there by Dan Eli Buick. And Bob King took me over there, and he said, "We're gonna get you some contacts." And I had no idea what contacts were. You know, we had the little and that's what I did. And I don't know what they cost, but somebody helped me get that. And that's how we got started. But mainly my stuff, my inspiration was whatever I needed, I had to go and do myself. And I'll just,
But
one other thing, I never anticipated myself being a basketball player because I never thought I'd be big enough. And I was a tall, skinny kid, and they called me all kind of nicknames, you know, Bones and all of that. And I was just encouraged to I was telling you about the older guys in Detroit. I was encouraged to be looking at them as an example, and I wanted to be as good as some of those guys, Charlie Primus and Ernie Wagner and John Klein. These were all guys that had played in my high school before, and I just wanted to be as good as they were. But I started growing, and when I entered high school, I was like 6'1", 6'2". When I finished, I was 6'8.5". And I just,
you know, Ira, you have ball handling skills. At 6'1", I bet you were a pretty good ball handler because as you grew, I mean, at 6'9" or 10, whatever you are, or whatever you played at here, you could handle the ball. You had all the nifty moves. You were an all-around athlete on that basketball court, and that made you very effective. Is that accurate?
well, yeah, mostly. The guys in Detroit, as I said, the older guys, you know, I would play, they were at least on average 10 years older than I was. I was like 16, 17. They were in their mid to late 20s. And they would tell me, we tell them, "Big fella, you got to do this, you got to do that. So you can't be running up and down the floor. You got to do something else. You got to get a rebound. You got to be able to shoot, score." And so this is what inspired me, these old guys. And most of them are passing away. As a matter of fact, give a little homage. I had a guy that played with me in high school, and you might remember the names, Smokey Gaines, David Smokey Gaines.
Wow. San Diego State coach.
Yes, but he was my high school player. And I was telling one of his former players the other day that I had gotten mad at Smokey because we went to a friend of his. We went to his, he had a grocery store about 5 blocks from our house. And Smokey picked up an apple and started biting it. And the guy said, "You owe me 10 cents. Smokey said, "I'm not going to give you 10 cents. So the guy pulled out a gun, and the barrel looked like it was that big. It scared the hell out of me.
Wow.
And the gun, he pointed it at Smokey. Smokey jumped behind me, and I'm scared as can be. And the guy takes it. Smokey said, "I'm not paying you." And the guy takes the gun, and he points it down, and he fires it about 3 inches from my feet. And I thought, wow. And I cursed Smokey. We left that store, and I cursed him for the next 20, 30 minutes because I was frightened. Never been that afraid in my life. But that's how a lot of the things in incentive got started. People tell me how to do and what to do.
When you started playing, it didn't take long for you to become a real star in front of Lobo fans. And then your image and your reputation started spreading. I mean, you got some big honors, All-America, and you were always a good student, but you were the leader of our early Lobo success. But you had the coach, Bob King, who loved you and knew how to teach the game. In your opinion, share with us what was so effective about the way Bob King coached the game of basketball.
Well, I'm going to bring up a subject, Henry, that's not mentioned very often, color. I'm being facetious there. It's all they always talk about. But Bob King told me, he said, and first of all, I played for a guy named Haberrichter in junior college, and Lloyd Haberrichter in junior college, and he told me, he said, Ira, this was in 1960. He said, wherever we go, said we'll all stay together, we'll all eat together, and so we're a team. And Bob carried that on. He told me the same thing when I came here. He said, we'll never go to a hotel or eat at a restaurant where you can't go in. And so we go. I remember over in Lovington and over in Hobbs and Texas Tech. What I can't recall.
Lubbock.
What Lubbock and Amarillo. We went and played somebody there. Southwestern Texas State or something, and we all stayed at the same time. Toe Diem, let me throw his name out, was the athletic director. And Toe would get off, we'd go, if we were riding in cars or bus, Toe would get off and go in, and he would ask, and I could see the sign that says vacancy, and I know that Toe would say, we have black players on the team, will you accept them? And if they said no, Toe would come on out, and he said, well, they're full. And you see the sign there, vacancies, and but they would not go. And I remember this one place we were in, Carlsbad, and they went there. Excuse me for rattling. We went to there, and we found a place, and they invited us meaning the team, to all go and visit the caverns. And they told me it was like 1,000 feet below ground. And I remember saying to myself, there's no way in hell they're gonna get me underground. Being a black man in this little town, as I might not ever get out of here. So I declined the invitation. But back to how I got started, it was mainly the guys in Detroit, Bob King, Lloyd Haberrichter.
You all right?
I'm fine. Now, I have my coach over here in the corner, my wife.
Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, she's here. She's correcting me.
Hey, while we're talking about Jerry, you hit a home run right there. You hit a grand slam. I love your wife. She is, wow. She might be the best athlete in the whole family, but I guarantee she's your rock. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. But my daughter, Cecilia, was the best athlete. Joe, my son, was probably the smartest. And Ira has done more in basketball than any of us. He won, what, 4 straight state championships?
Yep.
And,
yeah.
You know, and he's the one that I thought would be
that's a key picture.
Less inclined to play basketball, to coach basketball than any of them. And they all put, the 3 of them won state championship for
Gee.
Joe. Cecilia won a championship in Las Vegas, Nevada, coaching the boys basketball team. Joe won the RMAC up at Highland, and Ira's won Pecos won 3 or 4 championships in a row. And
yeah.
And they all, and when folks ask me, I tell them they got all the talent and smartness from their mother. The talent came from me, I guess, but she was the brains of all the Brahms. She was a smart one, and we had did all the playing. But
Wow, what a story. Fred, throw
Hey, I
a
have a
question. Throw
Yeah.
a question at the great Ira Harge.
What made you your first year in, was it 62? And then you went 63. Of course, you went from 17 wins to 25 wins. What really was the reason why you improved that much? Was it more having so many guys back? What is the real reason you think that you improved that much?
Well, I think it's because Bob King kind of gelled as a coach. So our first year, this was also his first year as a head coach, and he learned the players. He learned a new game because he had to coach the whole game instead of sticking his head in as an assistant. And then we got some other players. We got Jim Patterson, Bob Czar, Boo Ellis, and we had Mel Daniels. He wasn't there with us, but he was in the making. A guy named Jim Boyce. I don't know if you remember this guy, Bobby Joe Hill. He was over at Burlington. He was ready to come. Somehow he went down to Haskell, got him to go down to Utah, and he went down there. But Bob King, he really, and I suggested to the coach here in Weir or Wire that he go to Detroit and some of these big cities and find some of these players and recruit them, get them to come down here, because a lot of them, they know about New Mexico now, but they're not recruiting. You know, you can go to Canada, and I'm not criticizing the coach, but he's going to Canada and he's getting players, but he's not getting the players that can help him win. So you need to go find players, Texas, Florida, California. We had guys coming from all over. This is what Bob did. He just reached out. He and Sam Miranda, and then Harv Smith. You know, they would go and find players at these outlying areas, and a lot of the guys were marginal players, and they would come in and they would be able to gel and become players.
Okay, before we get too far along, because I want to make sure we cover the trip to the NIT your senior year with Mike Lucero, Skip Cruzies, Claude Williams, and Boo Ellis. And we were all glued to our televisions here, black and white TVs to be exact. And our Lobos were in Madison Square Garden, the mecca of everything in sports, boxing, basketball, you name it. Wow, our Lobos are at Madison Square Garden? Man, do you have a TV? Do you have a TV? We're going to find a TV and watch our Lobos. What a hot subject matter. Maybe the single most popular individual game ever played in front of your fans was that tournament. You beat Drake, you beat NYU, and then you're in the championship game, prime time around the world. Our Lobos are playing in the NIT championship game. Tell us about that season, Ira.
Well, I got 50 years of memory, but we as I said, we split the WAC that year with Arizona State, and Bob King. We had a conference or a little meeting, and he gave us a chance, the opportunity to decide whether we wanted to go to the NIT or to the NCAA, and we decided the NIT. And the reason was that I can't recall, I would not be able to play in part of it because I had transferred in. And so we chose NIT. We went there. We were the surprise, I guess, of the tournament. We played Drake, who had won their, I can't think of the name of the league, but they won their league. And then NYU was one. They had, not Barry Samuels. I can't think of the guy's name now. Went and played with San Francisco, and we beat the two teams. And then, but another sidebar, I'd never been called so many names on a basketball court as I was there. This guy, after we beat New York, we were going into NYU. We were going into the dressing room, and this guy, I don't know what where he got all these names. He had names that I had never thought of. And he would call us and call us names and told us that we had ruined his life. He had lost his paycheck or whatever it was, and we were just trash, and that we would not go any further than we did. But we went on and we played Drake very well. Only thing is, after about 5 or 6 minutes, I had three fouls, and Bob King told me, he said, Ira, after the game was over, he says, I learned the lesson. He said, I learned that I keep my top players in for as long as I can. I can't take them out and give them as much rest as we gave you. He said, because the other team will get too far ahead. He said, that's a lesson I learned. And he had Lou Alcindor, who was now Kareem Jabbar. He was there at that game, and Bob was trying to recruit him. This is how he was reaching out. And as I was walking out, he waved, and we waved at each other. And Bob King said, we need to find us a big guy like that to help us in the middle. And then they had Mel Daniels, which Mel was not the premium player that he turned out to be here in New Mexico. And as he went on in the league, and Mel became one of the top players. He made the Hall of Fame and the All-American. Mel was an average player coming out of high school, but he developed into a great player here and went on to further greatness there in Indianapolis. He started in Minnesota, but he went to Indianapolis.
Ira, what do you remember about the championship game against Bradley?
Well, that's one of the worst officiating game I think I've ever played in. We played, I think within three minutes of the start of the game, I had two fouls, and then I played another minute or two, and I had 3 fouls. And I remember Sam Miranda telling Bob King, he said, as I was running up and down the floor, he said, we better get him out before he has 4 fouls. And so they took me out. I set the rest in half, and he put Bob Czar and Jim Patterson in. And as soon as I went out on the court again, at the start of the second half, I got a 4th foul, and then he set me out, and then I went in right about which would have been the 3rd quarter, and I got the 5th foul.
Oh.
And that's when Bob told me what he said about playing the guy. He said, you play him as long as you can. But and then as we were leaving the gym with our heads down and discouraged, the same guy that called us all those names and told us how bad we would be, he said, I knew you were what's the word he used? We were phony. He said fake. He said, but he colored it a little. We were phony, fakes and things. And Drake went on and beat us by what, 15 points?
It wasn't good.
I said Drake. Bradley beat us.
Bradley, yeah.
By 15, 17 points, maybe even more. I don't remember, because I was just so discouraged. And the worst thing about that game that I remember is that I called my mother, who had never seen me play in person or on television, and told her that we were going to be playing on television, and they couldn't get the game in Detroit. That's
wow.
So, of all,
you didn't
go ahead, Fred.
No, I was going to say, you didn't mention one name that I thought, I don't have anything in front of me, but you didn't mention anything about Ben Monroe.
Ben Monroe was a freshman that year.
Okay.
So he didn't play with us.
Okay. So he was a freshman. Okay.
Yeah. See, back then you couldn't play as a freshman. Like you
I
can now.
remember so vividly as a kid, and all of us were going to try to get to the airport on Yale Boulevard some way, or get to the airport itself, because the whole town wanted to be there to welcome you back off the airplane. And that might be the single most biggest crowd ever by fans, parade or other Lobo teams, to ever line up the street and be at the airport to say hello, we love you, Lobos. What did you think of that experience with thousands of fans welcoming you back home?
Well, I'll tell you something that I thought, and I mentioned this before. I thought those people were crazy because we had a dust storm that day, and we had taken the plane from New York to St. Louis, and from St. Louis to Albuquerque, and we were over Amarillo, and they would tell the pilot came on and said we were going to have to go back because we could not land in Albuquerque, and we turned around and we got back to the Amarillo area, and he said, "Oh, we can go in." So he said we got to hurry up. But I remembered that, and I remembered the people. And when we got off the plane, I don't know if either of you wear sunglasses, I mean contact lenses, but you get that dust, and you get that dust under your lenses. It's painful. And there were people standing out there, and I could barely see, but they were yelling and screaming, and I'm thinking, wow, these people are crazy. Not in an insane way, but just to be out here in all this dust. And it was in March, and I can't remember the date, but it was in March of that year. And those who know of weather and things, they can go back and look that up. It was in March of that year. And we had all that sand and dust, and then we came down Yale to Central, and then turned in and went in. And the people I thought that there was quite a few people on Yale, but when we got to the gym, I mean, the parking lot was full, and we were barely able to get the bus into the parking structure. I mean, to the parking spots, and they let us out in front of the gym where the big Lobo was, and we walked in, and I said, thank God I can get my eyes right, because they were starting to run and hurt, and I put that eye drop in to get it. And then we went in, and there were like 4,000 or 5,000 people in the gym. I'm not sure of the number, but I know on that east side of the gym there were quite a few folks there, and they talked, and we all said, Pete McDavid was who I was trying to think of. He was the athletic director.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he and Bob King came together and got started on the pit that year.
Hey, Henry, I know Henry only has about a couple minutes left, but what do you remember? What maybe was your greatest game? The year that you went to the NIT. What your greatest game was? I know that's far back, and we'll just ask you now. But can you remember one that you just couldn't do anything wrong, and you just felt like you did everything right?
There were two.
Okay.
And the most incentive I had was up at BYU, and that's when they had the big track around the gym, and there was a big bald-headed white man sitting above the rim, and he called me all kind of names, racial names, and he told it was John Fairchild. He told John Fairchild, he said, "You can get close to him, you can guard him." He said, "It won't rub off." And from that point, that statement, I tried to stick the ball in up to my armpits. And then the other one was I think his name was Denning. I don't remember, Reginald Denning or something at Texas Tech. And the same thing happened. There was a guy up on around the track of the gym, and he was calling me names and telling him that it wouldn't rub off and that he could get closer and he could do a better job. And I just tried my damnedest to make sure that they never want to play basketball again.
Wow. We have about a minute left, Ira, and I want to give Fred one more chance to ask a quick question, and I'll finish off real quick. Give me a 15-second question, and we'll get a 45-second answer from Ira, and we'll be out of time, Fred.
Well, professional, when you played professionally for those years, how did you, what did you think about that when you actually went from college to the professional ranks?
Well, I thought it was great. My wife and I, we weren't married then, but I had never gotten paid to play basketball. And I went to Philadelphia, and they gave me a $500 or $800 signing bonus. And my wife and I lived that year, that summer, off of this bonus. And that was the one of the most incentives. And then the other thing was, I got drafted by Philadelphia, as I said, and I thought I was going to make the team. And midway, they got this guy named Wilson Chamberlain. And I thought, who in the heck is he? I had seen him and met him. He was playing with the Globetrotters, had played with the Globetrotters. And they said, well, Ira said, we got somebody else coming in, so we're going to have to let you go. And they
Ira, we're going to have to stop. We're out of time, so we're going to bring you back next week. We haven't even started the interview with you. There's so much to ask you, but we got 30 seconds left right now. I just want to say thank you, Fred, for helping me. Thank you, Ira. Will you join us again next week on part 2 of the great Ira Harge?
Well, thank you, Henry. And I'm sorry I talk so much, but
no. Will you join us next week?
I'll do that. But this is
do that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being. We have callers calling in. We have more people listed who are calling in right now. They love you, Ira. They remember you. They'll never forget you. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll have Ira Harge back next week for round 2. And congratulations to you. You got that beautiful homecoming queen, Jerry, there to help you. Wonderful family. Congratulations. We're out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have Ira on again next week, no doubt about it. Thank you. Thank you for watching us today on ProView, GovTV, and Comcast 26. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you. Pleasure.
See ya.